Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. It's that time of the week. We're your hosts. I'm Herwig Konings, joined, of course, as always, by Kyle Sonlin. How are you this week, Kyle?
Herwig, I am feeling great. We're mid-July. We're midway through the year, and it's exciting to see everything going on. The momentum just never stops.
Well, we've got an amazing week of news. Once again, everything RWAs and tokenization. This week, kicking it off with an interview, Kyle, with StegX. So why don't we go ahead and hand it off right to Jason?
Let's do it.
Kyle, Herwig, thank you. This week, we are joined by Daniel Radwansky from StegX. Daniel, how are you today?
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. You guys have already started, and based on what we know, you guys have a series of announcements that are coming up. But most notably, you guys have recently talked about a few. We've talked about Black Manta, tZERO ID, and a couple others. So why don't you give us a summary of maybe some of the announcements you've already brought to light, and what you think the value add there is for these partnerships?
Yeah. So at StegX, we are building an ecosystem for the real estate industry, and especially we focus on institutional real estate. And what we've learned in the past, especially in our experience in the traditional fund administration business, that it's necessary to bring various stakeholders together, let's say or bring them together in one ecosystem in order to exchange ideas and to really create innovation. And that's what we are doing at StegX, and that's where also how we partner with many people from all around the world in regard to open up new doors to the blockchain technology, and also B, new distribution channels and very innovative PropTech solutions. That's number C, or letter C where we are all bringing them together in a partnership approach, because what we see in our marketplace is that a lot of asset managers, asset owners, developers, they have a very traditional focus. And for them, it's very difficult to find the right innovative solutions for their challenges. And by integrating those innovative partners into our ecosystem, we help them to provide a direct link between the innovative solutions which are built somewhere out in the world and those who really want to use them, and actually who want to build something new, who maybe want to grow their business or have a more sustainable, forward-looking business. And that's where we're helping them by connecting both sides of the market, you can say. So we are not focusing only on having a marketplace, but build a much bigger ecosystem around that, which supports in the whole life, or let's say life cycle and value chain of real estate investments.
Makes sense to me. And so let's say I'm an issuer going to use StegX. Tell me what's your role in my issuance, and what are your partners' different roles, so I have a better understanding of who you're working with and how the pieces kind of align here.
Yeah, sure. So overall, when you're an issuer, you normally have an investment opportunity. So you would come to us, and we can provide you the legal structure in Europe from which we can create a compliant investment product. And this compliant investment product is then be used on our marketplace to raise capital for your investment opportunity. So that means we help you with the structuring, with setting up all the legals, all the regulatory parts of the whole process, because we have them integrated into our marketplace already. And when you talk now about the partners, that's exactly what we have just announced with Black Manta Group, who are our licensing partner and also a distribution partner of ours with a strategic partnership, or for instance, tZERO ID, where you would have used their KYC solutions to identify yourself, get your digital identity in your wallet, and can reuse it over and over again on our platform, or also on our platforms of our partnership network. So when you're an issuer, then why I say that, because it shows you a little bit what these partnerships bring, and because they're all founded on the blockchain technology, it's really how we want to drive the innovation of real estate industry together with those partners and create strategic alliances to bring new ideas, to bring new efficiencies into the industry. And for you as an issuer, it would help you to list the assets. You firstly to create digital investment products out of your assets, which you can list on our marketplace or in our distribution partner network, where we can use those investment products we have structured in our legal structures for you or on your behalf, that you can list them or cross-list them also in other marketplaces all around the world. So there will be a lot of announcements coming also in the next weeks, where we highlight more the distribution part rather than the operational part of the business, which allows you then not only to tap into the European markets with us, but also to tap into markets, for instance, in the Middle East, South America, Africa, or Asia, together with us, with our distribution partner network.
Very nice. So you guys provide some of the tech, some of the structuring of these issuances, and your partners, help, enhance some of that distribution, on-chain identity, and presumably interoperability between them with some of that, going on with these partnerships. Based on the clients that you're working with or have in your pipeline, are there any trends you're seeing in the tokenized real estate market?
Yes. So for us, the biggest trend and this topic which is talked the most about in the various conferences, at least here in Europe, is how we can enable cross-border initiatives, like, for instance, how we can distribute assets not only in a closed and siloed marketplace ecosystem, but how to connect various marketplaces and especially the liquidity which is sitting somewhere in this world to the assets which are tokenized. And that's what we are building very actively right now. So I would say we are really at the front of building something in a cross-border mentality, where we are collaborating with various partners from all around the world to increase the liquidity in the tokenized market.
Makes sense to me. Awesome, Daniel. Well, if anyone in your jurisdictions and whatnot, first of all, what jurisdictions do you cover? And second, how can they best get in contact with you to start working with StegX?
So we are a global platform. We support customers from all around the world and also work with partners from all around the world. So if you're an asset manager, asset owner, or digital asset marketplace who wants to tap into new distribution, capital raising solutions or possibilities, or build new possibilities for you to grow your business, feel free to reach out via our website, or you can find me easily on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Awesome, everyone. Well, that's Daniel Radwansky from StegX. Thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on the show, letting us know about what's going on. And we look forward to the future partnerships that you guys have in your pipeline to be covered on the show. But with that,
thank you for having me. Have a good one.
Absolutely, likewise. And with that, everyone, we'll be transitioning over to the market movements.
A fantastic interview there, Kyle, bringing on StegX with Jason. Love to see it. Another great player in the industry. But now it is time to talk about the biggest happenings that we saw this week. Kyle, with some big one here. A headline, of course, a record for the industry. The world's largest tokenized fund, which is the Biddle by BlackRock fund, has officially surpassed $500 million, Kyle.
Yeah, this is, I don't think it's necessarily surprising that they reached this mark, but it is impressive that it happened so quickly. Just like with the ETF, reaching hundreds of millions of dollars so quickly, this is a tokenized fund product that I believe is a cash equivalent, and it's paying out yield on dollars that you can bring into the tokenized economy. This is the most institutional way to get yield on your float in the digital economy. And obviously BlackRock being the largest player in the traditional asset management space, working with an OG Securitize and bringing this product to market is a very exciting thing. And doing it on Ethereum, doing it on an open public blockchain is, I think, a huge win for the industry as opposed to some private network.
It's what's driving this. Absolutely. I totally agree with that, Kyle. But it's interesting to know that, in fact, it is significantly not all institutional capital going into it, right? We know that Ondo is actually a significant backer, having put OUSG and USDY into BUIDL. That means they're, I think, around like 40% or more of the concentration of this fund. And that doesn't include the fact that we also know Mountain Protocol with their USDM integrated BUIDL into reserves. And recently they were awarded the largest allocation by, I believe it was Arbitrum.
That's right.
That for their treasury in terms of allocating that towards RWA. So we love to see that, Kyle. I think BUIDL is absolutely, like you said, leading the way with this. And the fact that it's on Ethereum is gets everybody talking, that this is on a public blockchain by the world's largest asset manager. You love to see it, Kyle. Moving on, we also saw one of the world's biggest banks that gets recognized globally, Goldman Sachs, continue to double down on tokenization as well, saying that they're going to launch 3 different tokenization initiatives by the end of the year, with an emphasis on the fact that they're actually going to be changing the way the investor experiences. No surprise here. We're, of course, talking about an incredible platform that we've seen many other asset managers as well as platforms, bring to market already. So now Goldman Sachs is entering into the Web 3.0 century with this. And I imagine that they're going to absolutely be focused around what they've already mentioned, bond tokenization in the past, as well as maybe some other products that they've already been working on. It's interesting. A lot of people bring up, Kyle, that, of course, there's a position within Goldman that is against crypto, or at least they specifically comment on the fact that it's hard to value and it's hard to, actually put confidence in some of these crypto products. But of course, as we've been talking about on the show forever, there's a big distinction between crypto, digital assets, and tokenization of securities and assets. And we're going to see Goldman Sachs, I think, go big on that front. As we can see here, before even the end of the year, they're going to give us a taste. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm happy to see they're bringing products to market. We saw the GSDApp announcement, maybe 2 years ago or something along those lines when we covered it on the show, getting very excited for everything except for the name. I'm not a huge fan of DApp just because it seems like everybody's just kind of using the general. It would have been fun to have another like Onyx style of platforms, a little branded. But either way, this is great news. Goldman is a huge distribution platform. They're going to be bringing in all of their private wealth clients, high net worths, to fund a lot of these projects. And they understand the value. And we look at so many of these firms, it's not only just the tokenization piece of streamlining the fractional cap table and a lot of those things, it's also the automation. It's reducing a lot of the headcount needs and responsibilities. It's reducing the cost of compliance and maintenance of these types of assets, investments, dividends, distributions, all these types of payouts and settlement processes. They're recognizing the opportunity here to make that process more efficient and to save dollars. So it's inevitable, but it's good to see that they're actually making progress and not just sitting on it.
This is another big one, Kyle, because as we can see from our weekly research that Goldman Sachs, just like we saw with BlackRock, their name carries so much weight that this is making the rounds. It is making waves. The fact that Goldman is coming out and saying we're bringing some tokenized products to market by the end of the year, that means the market is here. It's happening now. It's time for all of the other banks and asset managers and the rest of the financial infrastructure to pay attention. And that's why the rest of our news today, Kyle, the big market movements, they're all big institutional bank related. We're going to head over to Germany, where you remember last week they announced the biggest digital bond, over 4 billion euros in size, that they were recording. But now they've actually issued another one on Polygon. 100 million euro bond. This is, they say, actually marking Germany's first syndicated crypto security. It's about a 3% coupon bond, roughly. And of course, KfW is saying that they're exploring further blockchain integrations. There were a lot of different participants making this possible. The book runner was DZ Bank alongside Deutsche Bank, LBBW, Bankhaus Messler, as well as Deutsche Bank led the syndicate and were the settlement agent. The DZ Bank acted as the collective registrar holder on behalf of all the investors. CashLink was used as the crypto securities registrar, as well as Aufhauser Digital, who I'm not familiar with. Gonna have to check them out. They were the custodian on this. as well as there were a lot of different legal advisors and other participants in making this transaction on the Polygon blockchain possible, a big bond, Kyle. This is a trend we're seeing over and over again with the banks. Any insights you want to share?
Polygon is an interesting choice. I think that it makes sense, and they've driven a lot of adoption. It is definitely lesser in terms of popularity with respect to an Ethereum or something like that, but we have seen some adoption here, and I think this is just another great bond from a bank getting involved in the space, learning about how this process works. And it's a 3% coupon. So this is generally higher than what I think we've seen as a market average on some of these tokenized bonds. So that maybe starts to show that there's some commoditization happening, and they're going to need to compete on rates to provide competitive products. So for that reason, I think it's an interesting one. Everything else seems relatively standard.
Germany really institutionalizing here. I think making a lot of moves. They've always been on the scene, but I think they're really forming here.
That's right.
We saw a German bank, Bankhaus Scheich, or something like that. I'm definitely saying that wrong. Earlier this year, also issued a Euro money market fund on Polygon, Kyle. Polygon making some moves. Bitcoin Suisse earlier, also a bond. So it seems like they're definitely capturing the attention of bonds specifically, as well as just the institution. So great to see. And that's where we're going to also finish off here on the European central bank trial featuring DECA Bank and DZ Bank, who used Clearstream, which is the Deutsche Börse's digital arm, using their CSD product, I believe. And they all came together for a 10 million euro, two bonds, 5 million each issuance here. Using that Clearstream technology. So this is a huge, another initiative, because also, Kyle, I want to highlight that they used a central bank currency, also the European Central Bank trial. So what we're seeing a lot of banks around the world is testing this concept of, we've got securities. What would it be like if we settled them with, say, central bank currency? Kyle, please, it seems like you're itching to get in here.
This is a really, really interesting development. I think we've seen this happening in Europe, but they continue to drive forward with a central bank digital currency. And this is something that in the United States has been a significant topic of debate and detest within many large and influential communities here in the United States. So I think that will be definitely something very fascinating to watch over the next 5-10 years, is what happens. It seems like in Europe, it's almost a foregone conclusion that they're going to be launching a central bank digital currency. It makes a little bit more sense because they have the euro, and because a lot of these countries already are used to this kind of overarching currency that's mandated by a larger institutional counterparty. But it will be fascinating to see if the US stays off of digital currencies altogether mandated by the central bank, and then Europe goes on to the central bank digital currencies, how that will impact our economic transition. I think that there's the privacy concerns, but there is also the benefits of a digital currency with respect to how it can integrate into a lot of these systems, how it's much cleaner with respect to these transactional systems. You can automate a lot more. So what will the benefits be? What will the trade-offs be? And how that will happen, I think, is going to be a pretty interesting source of discourse, because one thing's for sure, even if the US adopts this in the future, we're many years behind where Europe is with respect to a central bank digital currency. So we are going to be able to see the impacts of that and the ramifications of it for multiple years before something would happen stateside.
From one end, I think it's really nice to know your counterparty is a central bank that's, reliant on the currency that you're trying to sort of settle into, right? There's definitely something to be said about that. On the other hand, there's also the big trend we're seeing now, right? Money market funds, liquidity products, offering you a yield. Why are you settling into the cash currency when you could be settling into something that's producing yield immediately? I don't know, Kyle. We'll see how the market ends up adopting the future. But I believe you actually have an interview with tZERO coming up here on the show. They actually this week announced the Digital Prime Technologies Reg D offering on their platform. They've been really active this year. I can't wait for you to dive into it. Shall we head in?
Let's go. Alan, you ready? All right, everybody, we're back with our second interview here of the week, and I am really thankful to be joined by Alan Konevsky from tZERO. He's an absolute all-star. I had the pleasure of interviewing him a few years ago now, and we're really happy to have you back. Alan, thanks for being here.
Kyle, I'm delighted to be on. Thank you for having me.
So tZERO has been a stalwart in the tokenization industry since the very beginning. And it's been pretty exciting to see a lot of the developments that we've covered here on the show and that we've seen on the news about tZERO breaking into both the primary and secondary side of bringing these private securities to market. Could you talk a little bit about some of the things that you're excited for the business as of recently?
Absolutely, Kyle. Thank you. And I think you previewed it very well. The unique competitive differentiator of tZERO in the marketplace is that we're able to bring under one roof several different things. One is primary, and we're able to work with entrepreneurs, new projects, including projects for fractionalization and securitization of real world assets, and private companies to equip them to raise capital in a compliant way through a range of highly customized mechanisms that would allow them to access funds, would allow them to expand their investor ecosystem, their fan ecosystem, their customer ecosystem, to leverage their community from a capital raising and commercial perspective, and in a way that, again, permits them to do it in a compliant way, in a transparent way, in a way that they can that is highly customizable. That's number one. But we don't leave a company at that stage. We then continue on, and that's really unique to secondary trading. One of the things that have always been broken about private assets, and tZERO, as you say, has been an advocate for that for years, is the illiquidity and the lack of options that investors have once they check into a private investment. And it often had this, and I don't mean pejorative about it, but it often had this kind of Hotel California quality to it that it's really hard to exit, and certainly before the investment ripe and mature, and a lot of them take years or decades to get to that level, if ever. And so what tZERO does is, again, provides a highly customizable and compliant pathway to secondary liquidity. And again, it could mimic the public markets, so-called continuous automated trading that we pioneered with our own tZERP security, at this point back in the beginning of 2019, and others. Or it can be curated in other ways that concentrates liquidity in certain trading windows, so like an auction or an RFP or a block trade that allows issuers to impose parameters on how the trading can occur, whether from an investor identity perspective or from a pricing perspective. And of course, all of that happens in a compliant way, leveraging our regulated broker-dealer assets. That's number two. Number three, and it's not in that order to diminish the importance, is the blockchain technology piece of it. As you say, tZERO has been a longstanding advocate on blockchain and tokenization of securities and leveraging of blockchain, including the ledger piece of it, but also the smart contract automation piece of it. And that doesn't get talked about enough from my perspective in the securities lifecycle. Our longstanding belief has been that a lot of digital assets in the environment do belong properly in the securities trading environment, and that philosophy continues. We, of course, support pragmatic regulation of digital assets in the United States, and until that happens, and if those assets were to be treated differently, we'll adjust. But given the way the law is now, we support them trading as securities, and we can tokenize assets that we deploy in the primary capital raising stage, that we support in the secondary trading stage, and we can also deploy blockchain with a great degree of flexibility. It can be the definitive record of ownership. It can provide investor transparency without changing the regulatory nature of the security, or it can be something in between, and we're of course technology agnostic and can support a range of protocols. And I think number 4 that's really unique for us is our adjacency with the Intercontinental Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange that ICE owns. ICE became a significant investor in tZERO back in February of 2022. One of the founders of ICE, David Goon, became our CEO, and that was a really transformational moment for us. And the close relationship that we have with ICE and NYSE, including in terms of companies that may not quite be ready to do full IPO, but want to access primary and secondary markets the way I discussed in a private environment for the time being, or companies that have done so already or want to do it and then want to graduate to a full exchange listing and IPO. It's a really virtuous relationship that we have, and I think that is not replicated anywhere else in the industry. And if you put all these factors together, that is a compelling, differentiated proposition that tZERO has in the market.
Well, it certainly sounds like you've said that one before, Alan, but really appreciate you bringing the comprehension there. I think that I'm excited, and I know that there's a lot of people in the space right now that want to talk about the primary offering side, because tZERO is known for being a trading platform, ATS. That's where he certainly built a great brand in the industry. And especially in this market, there's a lot of people looking to capitalize their assets or bring these products to market. So have you seen anything that have worked, and where is the demand coming from the buy side for what types of issuers should be looking at this as a real opportunity?
Look, I think it's a great question, and our solution is not industry specific. There tends to be a kind of a fluctuation of focus across asset classes, whether it's real estate, whether it's other real world assets, whether it's technology, whether it's digital. But the reality is that the methodology that we have to support customizable capital raising works across asset classes, works across industries. Now, we've seen a lot of interest in real estate. That has been the case. That continues to be the case. I think the interest in being able to access real estate assets that have not been available to individual retail investors, including accredited investors before, without actually becoming a landlord or investing through a REIT or a mortgage-backed security. And those are really very imperfect ways of accessing the same opportunities is really unique. But we also support technology companies, both in the digital space as well as otherwise. We support funds and other products. And I think that's the attraction in this offering isn't industry and asset specific, and that's what really makes it exciting for us. It makes it exciting for our investors as well, because remember, anytime an offering that comes on board, it brings with it its own investors, its own fan club, and then they can see additional offerings that become available on our platform subsequently. And there's again this virtual synergy and the virtuous snowball effect from the availability of investors in the platform and the range of assets that are available to them. We don't want to be a monoline player. We want to bring interesting assets that are compliant, that are well structured, and that are going to be appealing to the investors.
Well, Alan, I wish we had more time. This is just our quick little bite to bring you onto the show. We're live streaming here every Friday, covering the news and all the biggest things. I've certainly seen that tZERO has been crushing it. McNeil Investment Group just launched their $25 million fundraise on your platform, which is exciting. Do you have any closing thoughts or ideas for any listeners or viewers, issuers that may want to check out and get to know tZERO?
Yeah, 100%. I think you mentioned a lot of exciting parts of where we are and what we're doing now, and the range of issuers that have come on board recently in the real estate space, in the digital asset space, And we are here. We are excited to support a range of issuer clients. We're excited to welcome a range of investors on the primary and the secondary side. And of course, we continue to lead on the digital and the tokenization side of this industry. And thank you for having us, Kyle.
Of course. Well, we'll talk soon and we'll get a longer interview to really dive into the details. But as always, Alan, we appreciate your work and how hard tZERO has been driving the innovation in this space, and look forward to having you here on the show sometime soon.
Thank you, Kyle. Look forward to it.
Of amazing interviews already this week, some huge news, but we've got more of it this week. Starting off with one of our own. Great job to Jason Barraza. He was featured in CoinDesk in an article titled "How Tokenized Real-World Assets Are Outperforming Crypto," because we did the analysis, folks, using the CoinDesk 20 Crypto Index. We now are able to sort of see how tokenized real-world assets are comparing to the crypto market, and they, guess what, outperformed. Next up, we also saw ABN AMRO in the news this week. That's the third largest Dutch bank, so they carry weight, and they share the same tune as Goldman Sachs and BlackRock, which is that eventually public blockchains are where it's at, folks. This was recently demonstrated by the bank on a Tokeny webinar that they did, and they mentioned how efficient it is now to create digital bonds with just a small team, highlighting that they've done 2 recently already, by the way. So go learn more about that. Next up, we saw Tokenize.it launch a security token offering with the ticker BWALA, which stands for Bitwala, which is a popular German crypto company, which is raising capital via their platform. So no mention exactly of which blockchain, but they tout all the usual reasons like access and liquidity for why they're tokenizing. And of course, they're looking to grow their core business to increase Bitcoin and crypto adoption. As always, go do your own research in all these deals. We saw another big announcement from a real estate tokenization infrastructure company as well, landing a whopping 50 million euro valuation with their financing offering as well, raising 2 million euro in that. They launched a year ago and already claims that's Meta Wealth have tokenized 55 million euros worth of real estate already. So good job, Meta Wealth. Let's see if they can keep that number going up now with more of that capital. There was a big partnership announcement for a new working group around tokenization interoperability between Global Digital Finance, GDF there, and FIX for Onera's FinP2P platform. So FIX FinP2P Alliance, as they're calling it, will be spearheading these capabilities of enabling tokenized assets and securities to bridge across different networks to further enhance the distribution of them, leveraging FIX's messaging protocols combined with Onera's platform here, FinP2P, for the asset transfer. And finally, we're going to end on some alternative RWAs, kicking it off with Jade City. The company announced a 1.2 million seed round offering that's open now for their tokenized Jade marketplace. They actually announced also that they had 300,000 in a pre-seed round before this completed, and that they have experience in the mining sector and that there's a huge growing demand for the Jade gemstone. And if you don't fancy Jade, how about oil? Elements, ELMNTS, is bringing this well-known commodity to Solana. One of the founders says royalties from oil and gas wells, they could be a steady and lucrative source of income, and that you'll be able to invest with USDC as long as you're accredited. In this case, you love to see it because it's true now. Every asset will be tokenized, as you can see with jade stones and oil not being safe either. They can now soon make their way into your portfolio. And that's all the news I've got for you this week, which means it's time to end our show with our winners. Let's hit it.
Ooh, Herwig, you know what time of the week it is. Yesterday was ESPN's ESPYs, the awards for the sports players, but today is really what they were all dressed up for, which is the most illustrious awards in the blockchain tech industry. Of course, I'm talking about the companies of the week. These are the two businesses Herwig and I specifically chose that we wanted to highlight for doing some of the most innovative and exciting things in the industry. And of course, they get nominated for our Company of the Year award, the illustrious award, picking one company for the winner, the most impactful company of the year. So look, you can't win the lottery without buying a ticket. And we've got two more winners this week. Herwig, who is your winner this week?
Well, Kyle, there were a lot of great companies, as we heard on the show this week, doing awesome things in the tokenization space. And it was kind of tricky for me this week because I really did want to give it to somebody that usually is always doing something in actuality, right? And this week I'm giving it to more of an announcement, but I'm giving it to Goldman Sachs, my company of the week, because the fact that they came out and endorsed tokenization, the fact that they said we don't just have the Goldman Sachs DApp, but we are now bringing products to market. They're getting active. This is to me a bit of an alarm bell, a signal. BlackRock, Larry Fink did it earlier this year. Came on the news and said, hey, we're going to do this. And then boom, a few months later, BUIDL was launched. Now Goldman Sachs says, hey, we also say the same thing. We've been saying the same thing. Matthew McDermott, great guy over there, a great spokesperson for the whole industry, also believes in public blockchain usage eventually down the road. But at the end of the day, now they're going to bring some products to market. And that's what I'm most excited to see. Hopefully they stick to their word that we're going to see 3 of them by the end of the year. So Kyle, because they're one of the biggest banks, because they carry so much influences, I've been seeing how much this story is being picked up. For those reasons, Goldman Sachs is my company of the week.
Great winner. I think it's definitely the biggest thing that came to market this week. And it's exciting because we've seen how successful BlackRock has been in filling a lot of these investment vehicles. Let's hope that Goldman Sachs can do the same. They're not just a pretty brand name. They have so much capital behind them. So I look forward to seeing them put their money where their mouth is, subscribe a lot of these offerings, and really drive some significant traction on the institutional side into the tokenization economy, which only was going to rapidly turbocharge this arms race between some of these larger enterprise businesses that are competing for market share here.
And we're going to go start seeing these funds and products go from millions to billions real soon. I think, Kyle, as you said, it's heating up. So we, of course, have one more winner this week. Your choice. I'd love to hear it.
Herwig, my winner this week is DZ Bank. DZ Bank is an amazing institutional counterparty here on 2 of our market movement articles this week. We talked about how KFW issued that $100 million bond on Polygon. Well, as it turns out, DZ Bank actually acts as it seems like they're kind of acting as the transfer agent in US regulation, but for them, it seems like it's called the collective registered holder on behalf of the investors. So they're essentially providing a lot of the investor compliance underwriting process for KFW, who's the one issuing the bond and potentially bringing in the capital and some of the other things. Whereas DZ is maybe doing distribution, or maybe they're just doing the kind of the compliance. It's relatively unclear to me right now. But not only did they do that for the KFW bond, but they also were issuing multiple tokenized bonds via Clearstream in the ECB trial. So they jointly issued that 5 million euro bonds with Clearstream and DekaBank, and DZ Bank was a huge party in that transaction as well. So it's really cool to see them working with a bunch of these different banks. It seems like they're definitely a leader in that kind of operational role for many of these issuers that are bringing products to market, which is I think sometimes a thankless job. And so for that reason, I wanted to give them Company of the Week for being the one that's actually pulling the strings behind these deals and bringing them to market.
Good for them, and good for you for pointing that out, Kyle. As we just said earlier on the show, like Germany is really putting themselves on the global scene now. We see how KFW is issuing all these bonds. We see Clearstream, with the Deutsche Börse behind it, making moves. But DZ Bank is clearly one of those players that's helping make these transactions happen. One not to be missed and underestimated here. So check them out, especially if you're evaluating the German tokenization scene and all things. I'm sure we'll keep talking about them on the show, Kyle, but that's all we have this week. We got a beautiful weekend ahead. I hope everybody does as well. But as always, while you're waiting for our show next week again on Friday, we've got stm.co for you. You can check out all the latest trading news, the market signals. We're adding new listings every day. I know ARCA is on there. I know the NVIDIA token by Bakkt is on there now. Go check out all the latest trading information. We've got a lot of cool research reports and news coming out as well. So keep an eye out for that, because the team is hard at work despite the fact that it's a fantastic summer. Kyle, any closing thoughts?
Like, comment, subscribe, share us any thoughts. If you're innovating in the industry, you want to come on for an interview, you want to talk about what's going on, we love to host new, fresh faces. And we really appreciate everybody for sticking with us now 5+ years into the show's syndication.
Well, Kyle, don't call me happy for nothing, because you know what I want to say. Happy tokenizing.